Well, the sentence is in for Derek Chauvin. And so let me try to explain what 22 and a half years in prison is in Minnesota. Minnesota has good time. What that means is that 2/3 of the sentence has to be completed. That means that Derek Chauvin has to do minimally 15 years. For every 2 days you do, you get 1 day credit. What happens is that after you do your 2/3 sentence, then you go to parole, which is called supervised release. So at the maximum that he will have to do is 15 years. Now, according to the judge, he had to do what's called a departure. When you have sentence guidelines like Michigan, like Minnesota, you get assessed certain points for certain conduct. If you have a prison record or a jail record, if you have a criminal history, depending on how egregious the factors are in the assault, whether somebody was killed, whether somebody was beaten, excessive force, etc. And what they do is you add these points up. Now, who does adding the points up? Well, the guidelines are given to the probation department, and the probation department goes through the facts, through the police reports, etc. And after listening to the case, they then assess what points should be scored. Ironically, they came up with 12 and a half years. The judge said, no, that's not acceptable. And he did what was called a departure. What is a departure? A departure means that you don't have to follow the guidelines if you have reasons for doing so. He indicated that in his 22-page, finding, he's going to talk about that. But the probation was willing to say 12 and a half, which meant that he would have done at least 6.5 and been eligible for supervised release. A lot of people are asking, will he be in protective custody? Sometimes you are. Will he do federal time? That's completely up to the Minnesota Department of Corrections. If they do not believe that they can adequately care for him or he's in danger, they can make that request. That has nothing to do with the judge. It's out of his hands at this point. So, for those of you all who want to know, what is Derek Chauvin's actual sentence? Well, it's 15 years. And then he's eligible for supervised release. For something as heinous and as terrible as this, it is really horrible that this is what he'll have to do. In Minnesota, the maximum for murder second degree, which he was convicted of, is 40 years. That is the maximum. But they got good time. So what's going to happen is he has to do 2/3 of his sentence, which is going to be 15 years. He then will be eligible for supervised release at that point. And it is somewhat like parole here in Michigan. So, unfortunately, that's what it is. And so I hope that I was able to answer your questions. I see many of your comments. Fred Gassian is horrible, but that's something and it's better than nothing. It's so unfortunate that Black lives in 2020 mean nothing, that they'll throw money at you. We look at all of the people. Breonna Taylor, they still ain't been charged, okay? All of the officers who have committed these serious offenses and haven't been charged, yes, it is egregious. And I'm so glad that that young girl was filming that, because had she not, Derek Chauvin would be walking the streets today. It's absolutely horrible. This system is rigged against people of color. Unfortunately, it is. It seems as though Black lives don't matter. And the fact that this is a victory is unfortunate, that we have to be able to say that him doing 15 years after he killed this man, it is a victory, and it really isn't. And that really means that we need to re-look at this system. And Juneteenth, that's wonderful. Let's pass George Floyd's act so that we can make sure that if people, officers, do this kind of thing again, that they can be charged federally and that they can get some real justice. So I just wanted to give everybody an update on what that actual 22 and a half years would have been. The maximum is 40. So even with the maximum, if you had to give him that, it still would have been less than the 22 and a half years, as well as it has to be a maximum, a sentence, a minimum and a maximum, and the maximum is 40 years. So listen, tune in tomorrow 9-10 a.m. and we're going to talk about this. This is, unfortunately, it's not what we wanted, and I can't say it's a victory. I can't say it's a victory. 15 years in prison, and you're eligible for supervised release, which he's going to get for killing a black man, for killing a father. I can't say that that's a victory. See you soon.